Good morning, members. I'd like to welcome you to the fifth day of session 2025, the 68th Wyoming Legislature. We'll do the roll call. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
This is convening roll call for the fifth day, January 20th, 2025. Alamand. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Brady. Brady.
Excused.
Bratton. Brown Gary. Brown Landon. Byron. Campbell Elisa. Campbell Kevin. Chestick. Clouston.
Excused.
Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Filer. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Guggenmoss.
Excused.
Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Heft.
Excused.
Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas. McCann.
Excused.
Nicholas. Ottman. Ottman.
Excused.
Pendergraft. Posey.
Excused.
Provenza. Riggins.
Excused.
Rodriguez Williams.
Excused.
Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger.
Excused.
Webb. Weber.
Excused.
Wharf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin.
Excused.
Speaker Nyman.
Here. We are waiting on, evidently our labor health is still in and will be up here shortly. Next, we have our prayer. Representative Washut, Chairman Washut, if you would please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We bow our heads in prayer this morning. Father, we recognize that one of the greatest gifts that one can give to another is forgiveness. We recognize that you will judge us as we forgive those who have injured us. In this work, we often bring passion to our positions. Today, O Lord, I pray that through your grace, each of us here today may be inspired to forgive others, that the grudges and animus we bear may be lifted from our hearts, replaced with a sense of calm and hope for the future. In your name, amen.
Thank you, Representative Washut. Fellow members and guests, if you will join me in the salute to our flag. House will come to order. We want to finish our roll call, and then we've got some introductions, and then I've got some privileges of the floor. So let our speaker, or not our speaker, but our clerk Talbot, please finish the roll. Go ahead.
Brady? Klauston? Guggenmoss? Heft? McCann? Ottman? Posey? Posey?
Excused.
Riggins?
Excused.
Rodriguez Williams? Wasserberger?
Here.
Weber?
Excused.
Yin? 59 present, 3 excused.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. Next, we'll have our Journal Committee report.
Your Journal Committee reports of the Journal of January 17th, 2025 has been read and recommends that it be approved. Representative Jarvis.
Thank you, Journal Committee. At this time, I would like to make an introduction. Where did she go? Where's her? Oh, there she is. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I would like to introduce to you our new student page. Her name is Heidi Shade from Lander, Wyoming. And let me give you a few things that this young lady is in the middle of and what she has accomplished. In our midst is the current vice president of the Lander FFA chapter. She has also won 3 national titles in ag science and research. She is a Wyoming Girl State delegate, and she is dual enrolled at CWC and Texas A&M University, and she's getting ready to graduate as a veterinary technician. So this young lady is on her way up, and we are very blessed to be able to have her here with us. So let's give a warm welcome to Miss Heidi Shade. Thank you, Ms. Shade, for allowing us the opportunity to be able to learn from you, and I hope that this experience is a blessing to you, and you'll never forget it. And I'm sure there's many of these members in here that will be very much appreciative of all of your efforts and your input, as we all are. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to working with you. Also, our doctor of the day is Dr. Rage Geringer of Cheyenne. He is in the back, so let's recognize Dr. Geringer. Next, I know I have some privileges of the floor. Representative Larson, JT, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Granted.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, today I rise to recognize an inspiring group of citizens who have gathered here from all corners of our great state to better understand and engage with the legislative process. Their presence in this chamber symbolizes a profound commitment to the principles of democracy and civic participation. These individuals from all backgrounds and communities have spent their weekend off from work learning about our government and attending the Equality State Policy Center's Shape Wyoming training. To everyone who attended today, we appreciate your commitment and encourage you to continue your involvement, whether you are sharing your perspectives or learning more about the government processes. Your engagement is what makes our legislation tethered to our populace. Thank you, and they are in our North Gallery right here, so welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the House. Other privilege, Representative Kelly.
Mr. Speaker, privilege of the floor, please.
Please proceed. It'll catch the sound.
I'd like
Go ahead.
to give my sincere thanks to the body. Should I pick it up? No. He got the rookie. 12 years ago, my son Kane was born. He was born with Down syndrome, and he's had his share of challenges. Throughout our lifetime, he's been a shining light in the darkness. During my wife's cancer treatment, during my daughter's leukemia treatment, he was always that bright shining star, a gift from God every time our life became incredibly dark. I recall one time our neighbor's state to the south where somebody saw his face and turned to my wife and said, you know, they have prenatal testing for those things. The fact that this body took the time to sign a card for him and validate what he means to me, even if you just signed it in a perfunctory manner, thank you so much for recognizing the value of my son's life.
Thank you, Representative Kelly. I appreciate your willingness to share that with this body and to remind us all how precious life is. We appreciate that. Just want to encourage all of you. Let's see, I've got a couple more. Representative Ocean Andrew,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege.
proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize one of our fantastic public educators in Wyoming. Mr. Server is up in the North Gallery with his daughter Abby, and today is his birthday.
And sadly, there is a copy of that on live right now. So you can replay that at your leisure or never play it again. It is entirely your choice, sir. Thank you and welcome to the House. Next, Representative Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Granted.
All right, well, everyone, I'm glad we had a warm-up for a lovely song there, because yesterday a member of our body also had their birthday. Mr. Ken Pendergraph turned, I believe it was also 21. And so if we could have Representative Brown lead us in happy birthday.
Hate to ask this, but are there any other birthdays? So, Representative Yen, did you have a privilege? Oh, Representative Clauston,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
please proceed.
Everyone here, I'd like to have an announcement and congratulations. So any of the members from Gillette College here, I think Dr. Janelle Oberlander's here. So recently, Gillette College staff, faculty, and the community presented over 4,000 pieces of evidence, and we just received its letter of eligibility towards accreditation. So a really big deal, really proud of everyone who worked on that. I wanted to thank them and congratulate them. And then I'd also like to invite the Gillette singers from the college to come help us for happy birthdays. So.
I understand that we also have a former representative in the chamber with us. Representative Penn, would you like to stand to be recognized? Sarah Penn. Welcome back to the House. Representative Yee, oh my goodness. Okay, now I'm gonna take a quick break here and let y'all, for the rest of you, I want to know, we have more amendments that are coming in for the rules. And so it's good that we're doing this because we need a little time for our bullpen to get these printed for us. I want to encourage all of you to go to the website, and as these are being uploaded, and then you can look at these rules, potential rule amendments. We were going to be acting on our standing rules for the 68th legislature here shortly. And so I would encourage you to go through the website, find those rules as they're being posted, look them over so that you see them as they're coming in and you're ready to speak to those possible amendments. Okay, Representative Campbell.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning,
Privilege of the
Representative
floor,
Campbell.
please.
Yes, absolutely. Please
Thank
proceed.
you. So as we come back on this Monday morning to do really important work, I know a lot of us went home for the weekend. And so I would just like to give some huge appreciation and love to our plow drivers and our plow crews, because they are the ones that make it possible for us to get home, and so can our families. So a lot of love to YDOT and our plow crews. They are exceptional.
Thank you, Representative Campbell. Representative Yin,
Mr. Speaker, privilege of the floor.
please proceed.
And Mr. Speaker, so given that statute 84101AXII says Martin Luther King Jr. Wyoming Equality Day is to be observed on the third Monday in January. Today is the third Monday in January, everybody. So I'd like to wish everyone a good MLK Jr. Wyoming Equality Day. And I would like to read one quote of his, if that's appropriate, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
So from the mountaintop speech, he said, "All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they hadn't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly, somewhere I read of the freedom of speech, somewhere I read of the freedom of the press, somewhere I read the greatness of America is the right to protest for right." Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Yin. Representative Harrelson,
Privilege of the floor.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I wanted to give everyone I'm going to be a proud dad and I'm going to brag a little bit. My daughter is in Cheyenne currently for All-State with her violin. And we just found out that she took first chair, first position, and she'll be playing tomorrow evening at the Cheyenne Civic Center at 7 o'clock. If anyone wants to go and listen to our great students from across the state of Wyoming, it'll be band, orchestra, as well as choir, and it will not be an evening you want to miss. So proud of Elena and the accomplishments she's made in being able to take the highest position with the violin in the state.
Okay, are there nobody's at any microphones. Very good. Okay, next we're going to be moving on to messages from the Senate, which we have none. Next, we will proceed on to introduction and bills. So we are at that order of business of introduction, reading, and reference of bills. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 166.
House Bill 166, sponsored by Representative Bratton.
First reading of the bill.
State Auditor Payment Transparency.
House Bill 166 will be assigned to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 234.
House Bill 234, sponsored by Representative Alamand.
First reading of the bill.
Second Amendment, Financial Privacy Act amendments.
House Bill 234 will also be assigned to the Committee Number 1, Judiciary. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 199.
House Bill 199, sponsored by Representative Andrew.
First reading of the bill.
Wyoming Freedom Scholarship Act.
House Bill 199 will be assigned to Committee Number 4, Education. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 61.
House Bill 61, sponsored by Representative Banks.
First reading of the bill.
State Land Lease Preference Amendments.
House Bill 61 will be assigned to Committee Number 5, Agriculture. Next bill for our consideration, House Bill 63.
House Bill 63, sponsored by Representative Rodriguez Williams.
First reading of the bill.
Working Animal Protection Act.
House Bill 63 will be assigned to, our Committee Number 5, Agriculture. Next bill for our consideration will be House Bill 132.
House Bill 132, sponsored by Representative Smith.
First reading of the bill.
Annual permits for specified commercial loads.
House Bill 132 will be assigned to Committee Number 5, Agriculture. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 168.
House Bill 168, sponsored by Representative Eklund.
First reading of the bill.
Cultivated meat prohibition.
House Bill 168 will also be sent to House Committee Number 5, Agriculture. Next bill for our consideration will be House Bill 109.
House Bill 109, sponsored by Representative Alaman.
First reading of the bill.
Trespassing, suspend hunting license.
House Bill 109 will be sent to Committee Number 6, Travel. Next bill for our consideration, House Bill 162.
House Bill 162, sponsored by Representative Davis.
First reading of the bill.
Interactive gaming.
House Bill 162 will be sent to Committee Number 6, Travel. House Bill 81, next bill for our consideration.
House Bill 81, sponsored by Representative Yin.
First reading of the bill.
Regulatory reduction, mortgage loan originator licensing.
House Bill 81 will be assigned to Committee Number 7, Corporations. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 215.
House Bill 215, sponsored by Representative Smith.
First reading of the bill.
Prohibition on electronic voting equipment.
House Bill 215 will be assigned to Committee Number 7, Corporations. Next bill is for our consideration is House Bill 223.
House Bill 223, sponsored by Representative Ottman.
First reading of the bill.
Preventing strategic lawsuits against public participation.
House Bill 223 will be assigned to our Committee Number 7, Corporations. Next bill for our consideration, House Bill 86.
House Bill 86, sponsored by Appropriations.
First reading of the bill.
Public Property and Buildings Amendments.
House Bill 86 will be assigned to our Committee Number 8, Transportation. Next bill for our consideration will be House Bill 16.
House Bill 16, sponsored by Minerals.
First reading of the bill.
Used nuclear fuel storage amendments.
House Bill 16 will be assigned to our Committee Number 9, Minerals. Next bill for our consideration will be House Bill 161.
House Bill 161, sponsored by Representative Tarver.
First reading of the bill.
Hydrogen severance tax.
House Bill 161 will be assigned to our Committee Number 9, Minerals. House Bill 183, next bill for our consideration.
House Bill 183, sponsored by Representative Heiner.
First reading of the bill.
Net metering amendments.
House Bill 183 will be assigned to our Committee Number 9, Minerals. Next bill for our consideration, House Bill 184.
House Bill 184, sponsored by Representative Williams.
First reading of the bill.
Utilities, point of consumption and allocation agreements.
House Bill 184 will be assigned to Committee Number 9, Minerals. Next bill for our consideration, House Bill 193.
House Bill 193, sponsored by Representative Brown, Landon.
First reading of the bill.
Real property, severance of poor space, notice.
House Bill 193 will be assigned to Committee Number 9, Minerals. Next bill for our consideration will be House Bill 209.
House Bill 209, sponsored by Representative Knapp.
First reading of the bill.
Reliable and dispatchable low-carbon standards, repeal.
House Bill 209 will be assigned to Committee Number 9, Minerals. Last bill for introduction is our House Bill 159.
House Bill 159, sponsored by Representative Baer.
First reading of the bill.
Protecting water from chemical abortion waste.
House Bill 159 will be assigned to our Committee Number 10, Labor. That concludes the introductions. All right. We have our reading of reports from our standing committees.
House Bill 79, sponsored by Representative Stivar, bond elections, voter threshold requirement. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred House Bill 79, Bond Elections, Voter Threshold Requirement, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Brown, Heft, Johnson, Knapp, Locke, Lucas, Webb, Weber, Yin. Representative Knapp, Chairman. House Bill 116, sponsored by Representative Ottman, driver's licenses, unauthorized alien restrictions. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred House Bill 116, driver's licenses, unauthorized alien restrictions, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Brown, Heft, Johnson, Knapp, Locke, Lucas, Webb, Weber. Noes, Representative Yin. Representative Knapp, Chairman. House Bill 122, sponsored by Representative Connolly. Senior Citizen Service Districts, authorization and renewal. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred House Bill 122, Senior Citizens Service Districts, authorization and renewal. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Brown, Heft, Johnson, Knapp, Locke, Lucas, Webb, Weber, Yin. Representative Knapp, Chairman. House Bill 169, sponsored by Representative Locke. Homeowner tax exemption, 2025 and 2026. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 169, Homeowners Tax Exemption 2025 and 2026, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Brown, Campbell, Lean, Locke, Lucas, Riggins, Stivar, Wharf. Noes, Representative Storer. Representative Locke, Chairman.
Thank you. Now, I do have one re-referral. Chairman Locke, if he would like to let us know what that is, please.
Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Locke, please proceed.
Thank you. Absent objection, I request that House Bill 169 be re-referred from Committee Number 3, Revenue, to Committee Number 2, Appropriations.
Thank you, Representative Locke, Chairman Locke, I should say. Okay, on to second reading. We're gonna, ladies and gentlemen, we've got several amendments. They're trying to finish getting those amendments crafted for us, and so we're gonna hold off on doing the rules changes right now as those continue to come in. And so we're gonna move ahead into second reading of bills, bills on second reading. And so we are at that order of business of bills on second reading. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 11, and we have amendments.
House Bill 11, sponsored by Minerals, Manufacturing Sales and Use Tax Exemption Amendments.
Discussion on the amendment, or where's the amendment? It's second reading amendment. That's the only one we got, isn't it? That's on 118, or no, 11. There it is. Okay, we've got House Bill second reading amendment number 1 on House Bill 11. I've got this. Yes, I do have it. So anyone want, like, Representative Stivar?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move second reading amendment 1 to House Bill 11 and request your consideration. Let me explain the amendment. This amendment is to remove the committee of the whole amendment that did away with the sunset date and change it out to 15 years. Page 2, line 6, delete 2037 and put 2042. Page 2, line 12 or 19, same thing, moving it out to 2042. I think this is very important that we look at this and it stays within the legislature's ability to monitor the tax exemptions and just not make it carte blanche. I've also talked with the associations with this, and they are in agreement. So I appreciate your aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Stivar. Any discussion? Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this amendment. I think that when we voted on the original amendment, we were pretty intentional on what we had decided, and to eliminate the sunset date and provide that certainty for industry. I just rise in opposition to this amendment to be pro-business. Thanks.
Further discussion. Representative Filer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I clicked on this amendment, it also scratches out 2027 and puts in 2037. I believe that's 10 years. So I think the good bringer that was Brigham wanted to do 15 years, but I don't see that amendment on the computer. Maybe I'm wrong. It is 42. But either way, I'm also going to just give a little pushback on that. I work in some heavy industrial industries in my private work, but a lot of them like to have that long-term plan, right? So when they look at states like Wyoming and some other states where they want to possibly do some larger manufacturing, a lot of these companies, they look at not 10 years or 15 years, but more like 20 and 25 plus years down the road in order to have a good strategic long-term plan for their companies. So I would kind of push back on this amendment. I feel warm and fuzzy about it, which I'm not really speaking against it, but I think, as we voted on the last amendment to eliminate that date, I still think we ought to, we did send a clear message that day that we were very in support of keeping this, for as long as possible. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Wiley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to take a minute here, can I remind, my friends on this floor, this body doesn't need a sunset to be able to review this. If it becomes a problem and we need to start digging around and we want to implement more taxation, I guess then we can review this and bring it upon this floor for debate. I just want to remind everybody that we don't need sunsets to be able to review something every couple of years or a decade or 2 decades. These projects could take 10, 20, 30 years. That's why the amendment was brought last week by my fellow Sweetwater County representative. And I believe that I'm still supportive of that. I'm on and against this amendment.
Representative Larson Lloyd.
Thank you. And the good representative from Sweetwater County is absolutely correct. We can change it any time we want, but it's kind of like tying the string around your finger to remind you and to bring back and forth. And we've done this. This will be the second time since I've been legislature that we've reconsidered a sales tax extension for this particular industry. And we had another that some of my older colleagues will remember that was on the repair of railroad cars that we went through a couple of years and then determined, because it came back up, that was no longer warranted. And we've done away with that exemption. I think that having this out there and coming to us for reflection and to reconsider has real value, and would encourage you to support the amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Bratton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this amendment. Representatives from various companies and industries indicated the need to have enough stability to make long-term plans for the use of their capital. And as a business person, I understand that. But they also indicated that 10 years was a long enough window of certainty for that purpose, and 15 years even more so. It's good for us as a legislative body to reserve the right to review this tax policy, and I agree with the good representative from House District 54. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and for the amendment. I think, I think there's 59 tax exemptions in our statutes, and I think it's really good we have this bill, because these are topics we need to talk about, because really we have sales tax at the state level and then taxes on our minerals. And we're probably going to keep it that way. But I think I just forward you all a report, the most recent report from 2023 on this exemption that was required. Folks aren't required to actually fill it out. The participation in this survey is getting smaller and smaller, and I don't think the survey is going to happen anymore. And so then I was asking myself, why was this bill brought forward this year? I mean, it doesn't expire till next year, Mr. Speaker, and I'm thinking this would be a great topic for committee number 3, revenue. Find out actually who gets this exemption. See, we all think it's a small mom and pop startup that's, going to start building some things and employing a couple people in our town. I don't think that's the case, folks. These are going to very large commercial plants, not headquartered in our state, which is fine if we want to give that exemption, but I think we got to learn a little more about it. I'm not a big tax exemption guy. If we got rid of our tax exemptions, we could lower our state sales tax down to like 2.5%. And so, but we keep these things rolling, all right? And it doesn't expire for another year. We got an interim to look at this and study it and find out, is this really what we want, or should this go the way of the railroad rolling stock? And then, so finally, I think it's just important to have this thing come up before us. So I appreciate the bringer of the amendment. I'd hope you would step on. And I guess if you just look one more time, I'll finish, Mr. Speaker, on page 3 of that report. It's about $65,000 per every job. So that's what the exemption costs. So, and that's just on the limited data we have. So take a look, appreciate the debate, and please vote aye on this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Harshman. Representative Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just asked the bringer of the amendment to explain how changing the sunset date builds stability, because this body can change that whenever we want. So any business who's looking at a 15-year sunset and says, well, now I have stability because they won't touch this for 15 years, is mistaken. The sunset date says that this body will hear this again in 15 years or it goes away, but it doesn't guarantee that it's going to exist for all 15 years. So I'm just asking for an explanation of how this change creates stability for the industry.
Representative Johnson. Or not Johnson, excuse me, Brown. Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm standing in favor of this amendment. In the committee, when the people that were there testifying on this, they were really happy with 10 years. And so if we do 15 years, we're adding to that. We're giving them more time to take a look at what they're doing. It gives us a chance to come back and take a look at what we need to do. So I'm on and for this amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Any further discussion? This is the first time. This is second. These are second reading rules, so you have a second opportunity if you want, if you have spoken before. So I have Stivar, I have JT Larson, Filer, Wiley, Bratton, Harshman, Washit, and Brown. Clock.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a little on the fence on this one because the conservative in us always wants to remove as many taxes as we can, but at the end of the day, it's a little bit of a picking winners and losers too. And so I'll be honest with you, I do think I would reference one of the previous speakers, tying a string around our finger. Maybe there's something to that process where we at least keep an eye on these things. Maybe there is a broader process as discussed by the representative from Natrona, that a broader process where we audit these in a more robust fashion. I would not argue with that. That is certainly the case. But the concept of maybe tying a string around the finger and just making sure we do revisit these things, I think there's some potential bit.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Brown, Landon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this second time I've heard this exact same exemption and this exact same debate. First time I heard this, I was a freshman and walked in here, and I think we had about 3 hours worth of debate the first time around this one. What I think is interesting about this is this exact same discussion is going to happen regardless. But if we don't take a serious look at the discussion of whether or not we actually want to raise the taxes on this particular area of industry, we're wasting time, right? This discussion right now is not about whether or not we're going to raise taxes. It's just whether or not we're going to push out the sunset of keeping an exemption on the board. I have yet to hear anybody say, I want to raise taxes on the manufacturing industry. So my argument on this is if we don't have somebody that's willing to bring that discussion, I brought a bill, exactly what the former chairman of revenue said the other day. I brought a bill a few years ago to lift all the exemptions, take it all down to 2.5%. It was a $60 million hit to the general fund. I had every single person that's getting one of those exemptions right now come out and ready to, tar and feather me out there. And that's understandable because they don't have to remit that tax right now. But at the end of the day, unless somebody's willing to bring forward the discussion and actually place the tax on something, what's the point in coming back and having this discussion over and over and over? So vote your conscience on this particular amendment. I'm not for or against it. Personally, I think we need to be in a better situation where if you're going to just go ahead and just carte blanche everything, just carte blanche it, right? But right now, we're having a discussion on whether or not we're going to continue this same discussion for another 10 years. And I don't know how many of you plan on being here, but I sure don't. So I think it's a novel idea to take it out and try to find a compromise, but not sure I can handle that. I think in my opinion, it's probably just a little bit better to just go ahead and put it out there and then come back. And if somebody wants to raise the tax, let's have the debate on raising the tax, not whether or not we're going to sunset it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Going into second time, Representative Filer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I did find the updated amendment, let you guys know on that. But at the end of the day, there was some talk about, well, this is only going to help large business, right? It's going to help large industry. I think that's, I need to push back a little on that. Yesterday, I did receive a phone call from somebody in my district who runs a small manufacturing shop out of his garage for things that we use for like hunting. And he said, I'm so happy that I moved here to this great state of Wyoming where he doesn't have to worry about paying those sales tax on products that he needs to use in order to manufacture something for resale. And I think that's the key part about this, folks. It's manufacturing something to resell. So when we look at that, of course, the sales tax at the end of the day goes to the consumer. So if the wholesaler has to pay sales tax on something, and then the consumer has to pay sales tax on something, it's almost like a double tax. So, on and against this amendment, now that I think about it more, it doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. I think we need to keep those strategic plans out there for small and large industries. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think the good representative from here in the capital city that just spoke, and the chairman of transportation, really bring to light the conversation we need to have. Where does sales tax go? Comes here to the general fund and goes to the municipalities and counties, right? So if you're getting an exemption, it would seem logical that you would be getting an exemption because further down the road at some point, you're going to be providing enhanced revenue back to the state or to local and counties. So when we talk about manufacturing of something and being able to collect that later on in the sales tax, well, that depends on where the product's being sold. If it's all being sold out of state, then we don't get anything for it. And they're benefiting, the company's benefiting by not having to pay sales tax and to sell this product in another state, like refined products or such a matter of that. So I think one of the things that the good chairman brings up that we need to consider is if these industries are already paying a tax that impacts the general fund, such as a severance tax or royalties or sales tax on products they buy to operate in that industry, this is a great exemption, but it's not the same for everybody. And so I think we're getting to the point in time in our state's history that we maybe need to look at this. And so again, this just reminds us to look at it. I completely agree with the good chairman from transportation to take a look at this and say, who should this apply to? And should it be across the board? I think there's a fair argument to suggest that maybe it doesn't. But I think that this amendment has validity in helping us to keep this conversation on the table, and again, would suggest an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Larson, JT, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, the last speaker has some valid points. And I think we do need to look at what this tax applies to in our state. But that's a separate discussion. We're talking today about the sunset date or not to have a sunset date. That's what we're voting on. We're not talking about who it applies to or where it goes. That should be in a separate discussion in our committee number 3 interim, or someone can bring a personal bill in the future. I encourage you to vote no on this amendment.
Anyone else for their second time? Seeing no one rushing to the microphones, Representative Starvar, if you want to close out with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honor for the amendment. I think it needs to be up there for the further legislators down the road, when we're all gone, that this comes up, that they can have a look at it. Into the one question that the good representative out of Casper asked, why 15 years? Talking with the people that use this, a lot of them do 10-year plannings. 15 gives them just that much, a little longer to work this out. So on and for.
Thank you, Representative. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of amendment number 1 to House Bill 11, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. I'm gonna have to call division. I literally cannot tell if that's the same. So if you would all those in favor, please stand. And please stand still so the clerks can count. All those. I'll vote against, but it won't matter. It just passed. If I would have voted against. Yeah. Yep, I'll be a no. We believe we have a difference of 1 vote. So we're going to do this through a roll call. So please, Chief Clerk, call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon? Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Repeat? Chestick? Clouston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Filer? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Lean? Locke? Lucas? McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Riggins?
Excused.
Rodriguez Williams? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storr? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Bayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber?
Excused.
Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Speaker Nyman.
No.
Are there any changes? Singh? Are there any changes? Yin? Aye. To no. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 28 aye, 31 no, 3 excused.
Go ahead. Yeah, what's up? Vote 31 against, 28 aye. The amendment has failed. Yes, Representative Filer.
Mr. Speaker, can I please have a privilege of the floor?
You may proceed.
Hi, everybody, and good morning to y'all. This is a great start, good debate. But, you know, as many of our schools and government facilities and things like that are not in session today, and so my beautiful wife brought my lovely son here today to learn more about our processes. And up here in the North Gallery, this is my biggest influence in my whole district right here. My wife Renee and my son Brantley. If you could stand up. Stand up.
Welcome to the House. Thank you for being here. Okay. House Bill number 11, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a 3rd time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 45, next bill for our consideration on second reading.
House Bill 45, sponsored by Representative Byron, removing otters as protected animals.
House Bill 45, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a 3rd time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 73, next bill for our consideration.
House Bill 73, sponsored by Representative Larson Lloyd, recreation safety, rock climbing.
House Bill 73, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a 3rd time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next bill for our consideration, House Bill 91.
House Bill 91, sponsored by Agriculture, eminent domain energy collector systems amendments.
House Bill 91, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a 3rd time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next bill for our consideration, House Bill 118, and we have amendments.
House Bill 118, sponsored by Representative Banks, limitations on net land gains for the federal government.
We have one amendment to second reading, House Bill 118. Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 118 for your favorable consideration. Folks, this amendment removes property owners from the bill for several reasons. First, and I guess I'll walk you through the amendment first. So it's deleting section 1 in the bill, which at the bottom of page 1, you can see is referencing Title 34. Title 34 encompasses private landowners, encompasses private property rights, property conveyances and security transactions. And so if we keep private property in, what this amendment does is it's going to devalue those land from those owners, from being able to sell or exchange that land. So you're infringing on individual rights to do what they want with their land. Especially, this is true when that land is surrounded by or next to other public land parcels. It might behoove the private property owner who could maybe get, in exchange for their land, $20+ million in exchange for their land that they wouldn't otherwise get. There are not a lot of people that have that kind of money, except potentially billionaires who are moving in next to that land. Additionally, this complicates and adds bureaucracy to a process that is already incredibly difficult. So folks that are private property owners are just trying potentially to sell their land, now have to also consider how are they going to trade so there's no net gain. You're putting undue burden on private property owners. And then third, some private landowners who have sold their land, they've sold it again to federal government for millions of dollars that otherwise wouldn't be sold. So you might be harming an ag family, you might be harming somebody who wants to share their land with the rest of their community. In some of these cases, people sell their land to the government so that their neighbors can hunt and fish on it. That is something that the people of Wyoming hold dear. And so I would ask that you vote in favor of this amendment so that people have the right to do what they want in selling their land, and leave this up that makes this bill only applicable to state land exchanges. So you already will have a ban, a prohibition on net gain for federal government from state lands, but you shouldn't infringe on the people of Wyoming in doing what they want with their land. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Banks, your first time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I certainly appreciate the ability to discuss this with the body. And what we need to do is go back to Wyoming's start as a statehood. And in the United States Constitution, Article 4, Section 3, which guarantees admittance into the Union, as well as Wyoming's own act of admission, which ratifies our Constitution, recognize that we are admitted into the Union upon equal footing with original states in all aspects, and that includes transfer of federal lands to the state of Wyoming, as it was done with original states. That is the equal footing doctrine. That's very clear. There's no distinction made. What this bill attempts to do with the section that's attempting to be removed is to correct a practice that's been out of compliance with the original constitutional authority enumerated to the state of Wyoming by our own act of admission. So I heard it this way, you know, two rights don't make a wrong. Just because we've been out of compliance with this since statehood doesn't mean that we can continue on in a practice that's out of compliance. What we're trying to do is go back to our original act of admission, which says the state of Wyoming has jurisdiction with lands within our boundaries. That's what this bill attempts to do. And I would urge a no vote on this amendment so that we can continue to revert back to our constitutional authority granted to the state of Wyoming. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Banks. Representative Wharf, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too rise in opposition to this bill. I just do not like the idea of growing the amount of federal government within our borders. I already feel like they got too much land that they have chosen no longer to dispose of. I believe it does infringe upon our state sovereignty, and I would urge a no vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Larson, Lloyd.
The thing I struggle with this bill and I appreciate the reflection back on our admission into statehood and trying to bring us into compliance on the amount of state and federal land, but bringing us into the compliance at the cost of the rights of the private property owner, I think it's the wrong vehicle to do that. As a private property owner, I should have the ability, I have a right to sell that property to whom, unless I choose, and that's being taken away from me. Now, this is the first attempt we've had over the years to do this. A couple of years ago, we had House Bill 267 that attempted to do the same thing. It was a little bit different in that if somebody was going to sell to the federal government, then the state was allowed to be the right of first refusal at the same price that was offered by the federal government. That too was pushed back against because there may be those that don't want the state to have it, would prefer the federal government to have it. It's a personal choice whether I agree. I don't want any more federal lands than you do, but rights belong to all, and if that individual wants to sell it to the federal government, it makes me a little anxious that we're going to take that away from them. And so for this purpose, I signed on to this amendment and just strongly urge you to support it. I don't want any more federal lands either, but I don't want to take the rights of the private property individual away either.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Pendergraft, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding individual rights, I obviously am a staunch proponent of the same, but I wonder if we take the federal government out of this and set that aside, and let's just say that an individual property owner wants to sell his property to an enemy of the United States.
Point of order.
What's your point?
We need to stay on the amendment. This is about private property and the federal government, not about selling to enemy combatants.
Thank you for that. My point is simply to look at the scope of private property rights, which are, in fact, in my view, should be curtailed at certain points. I don't have a right as a private landowner to do everything that I want to do on my private land. At some point, we need to draw a line.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Alvin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just going to kind of flip this around. We're pitting private citizens against the unending funds of the federal government. So we need to think about that, because if the federal government wants it, there's no end to what they can pay for it. Private citizen wants it, there is an end. Thank you.
Representative Wiley, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I share the sentiment of this bill. I don't know if this is the mechanism to do it or if there's another way. But the last thing I want to do as a part of this body is to be involved in the state sending out a letter saying, we are the government, we're here to help you, tell you how to sell your land, tell you who to sell your land to. This goes above and beyond. This is putting government into folks' business, and I just wholeheartedly disagree.
Representative Lawley, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in favor of the amendment. Wyoming has long held the value of private property rights. Many of us have fought for that. We have said to our constituents we believe in that. And here we have a kind of taking. It's taking of opportunity of a private landowner. Now, I agree with the ultimate purpose of this bill, but I would suggest to you there might need to be a different way to go about it as it concerns private property rights. Our Constitution speaks to eminent domain and the limitations of the government taking. That's what this is. It's taking of opportunity and could lead to diminished value for someone who's trying to sell their property when you basically say there's this one person that you can't accept from. And again, the federal government right now is not been in any way identified as an enemy of the people of Wyoming. So they might act like it sometimes, but they haven't been identified as that. But this is a serious taking of a private property right. And I would just suggest that one way around this idea and trying to support the idea of the bill is to have, give the authority to the State Lands Board, give them money and allow them to bid against the federal government and the state buy the land and use it for state purposes. Again, I'm on and for the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I believe Representative Tarver, were you there? Oh, Representative Tarver, first time.
I'd just like to point out the fact we could have a real debate about adversarial, and I think the federal government could definitely be linked in there with some other, anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Kelly, for your first time, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to point out that when we talk about private property owners being willing to sell to the federal government, doing what they would like to do, we are ignoring the recent history of federal agencies being misused to pressure private citizens to do things maybe against their will. So maybe on paper, it may appear a private property owner is wishing to do what he wishes or she wishes with their own land. We don't necessarily know the underlying undertones of the federal government making them wish to sell that land.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Baer, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would add to what the previous speaker just said, and I would just point out that the funds that would be used by the federal government are funds that they have received from us, the voters, the individuals, and then they are dictating what this sale is going to look like, actually taking opportunity away from private citizens who've already paid into the government coffers. So if we want to protect private citizens' ability to make these types of transactions, we should limit the ability of the federal government to come in and make these purchases. On and against this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Byron.
Thank you,
First
Mr.
time.
Speaker. First for a second.
First for a second, Representative Byron. Anyone else? Representative Yin, then Representative Locke. Representative Yin, first, please.
Mr. Speaker, I think the argument I heard, and hopefully they'll come up and speak against a second time, was that we should be protecting our citizens from being able to make transactions of their own accord with the federal government because the federal government's going to pressure them. Are we babysitting our private citizens in Wyoming that they can't handle their own private property rights? I do think if we think about actually protecting the private property rights in the state, they can make those decisions because they are adults and we are not their parents. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Locke.
Thank you,
First
Mr.
time.
Speaker. And I would argue that we're not babysitting, but we are protecting the sovereignty and the landmass of the state of Wyoming. And I think it's very important, especially when you're going against, for lack of a better term, potentially going against infinite dollars. This opens up. I'm on and against the amendment.
Representative Larson, JT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First for a second.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Harshman.
Thank you,
first
Mr.
time.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd just point out that when the federal government purchases private property in this state or anywhere else, it obviously has to follow an appraisal system. So it's not an unlimited amount. They can't pay more than the appraisal. We saw that recently with a parcel where the mountains are big, right, and grand. And so I think that part, I think the ones with infinite amounts of money, we know those folks, they're buying up much of the West and running buffalo herds and everything else on that. We know that. But I think in my own county, Mr. Speaker, where really in the last 3 years now, some riverfront smaller ranches, the people wanted it, and our senior senator managed to get that through Congress, where we purchased 2 large riverfront properties for appraised value. And I think those people that sold that, it was their land, it was their right. That's what we came down here for, to protect private property rights. Now, if we want to pass a bill that says we're not going to sell any state lands to the federal government, hey, I think we're all on that. That's fine. But boy, to infringe on private property rights, it gives me pause. And so I'd urge us to vote no on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Geringer.
Thank you,
First time.
Mr. Speaker. First for a second.
Thank you, Representative. Representative McCann, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First for a second, please.
First for a second. Any other folks want to opine for their first time? First time, going once, going twice, on to second time. Any of those would like to, Representative Larson, JT, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to reiterate that, I believe every individual has the right to develop his own potential, to use and enjoy his own property, tangible or intellectual, and pursue his own interests, free from restrictions of arbitrary force. And I also believe that individuals are always presumed to be the best stewards of their property.
Thank you, Representative Larson. Representative Bear for your second time.
I pose this question to this body. Once a private citizen sells their property to the federal government, or the state government for that matter, where are the private property rights then? They will no longer exist. This again is a protection of private property rights by ensuring that private property owners will exist in the state of Wyoming. On and against the amendment.
Representative Alleman, then we'll go to Representative Lawley. Alleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A few speakers back, I heard a good representative talk about takings. No one knows more about takings than our landowners, our private landowners. We have core sage grouse areas that stops oil and gas and wind and solar. We have bird stips. We know all about takings, and I don't think this is one of them. I'm on and against the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm going to go back to the taking. The last representative who spoke brought it up, and I think it's a good thing to think about because this is exactly what's happening. We are taking away opportunity. You can think of it in terms of a reverse condemnation, that you're basically telling folks, hey, you're a private landowner in Wyoming. We believe it's your right to do whatever you want with your land, but hey, there's this one thing, you cannot sell it to the federal government. I think it's a serious question about what we stand for as it concerns private property rights. When we start putting these little conditions on it, it's just the beginning. And I think that it is something that's really not contemplated in our Constitution to do it. Again, I would suggest to you once more that there is a constitutional way to approach this problem, is to give the authority to the State Lands Board, give them the resources to bid on and buy the property for the sake of the state. They do that in that process without interfering with the private property rights, but we secure, because I do value the purpose of the bill, but we do it in a constitutional way where we are not taking opportunities from private landowners because we think there's a bigger cause. And I remember the Wyoming I grew up in, there was not much bigger of a cause in Wyoming than private property rights.
Representative Wiley for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the part of the state that I hail, my county and several surrounding counties, I think we differ from some of the speakers that are talking now. We are surrounded by public lands, federal lands, if you will. We deal with them all the time. I've been wrestling, with our folks in DC for the last 2 years because of an RMP procedure. And the question are these private land rights going to go away if it moves to public land or federal land? And I will tell you no. And how does this body get involved? It's exactly right what we've been doing the last 2 years. We're going to stand up and we're going to say no, and we're going to grit and growl and holler, and we're going to go through the proper procedure and chase it all the way to the top if we have to. That is how you protect private property rights, and that is what we will do, and that is what the state has done. But to go in, again, I just have so much heartburn with this, to go in as a body in a government and tell people what to do and what they can do with their property that's just not right. That cuts into a cloth that we don't need to be cutting into. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Wharf, for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's so many problems I see with this, it's hard to focus on any one. But one of the problems I see first and foremost is, I mean, we're talking about being responsible. We need to understand that if this is sold to the federal government, it's no longer taxed. That's a loss to the state. That's one reason why the state needs to say, they need to weigh in on this, in my opinion. Another reason that I think we need to weigh in on it is it's prohibited in the Constitution. The Constitution is very clear where the federal government can own lands. They don't have the ability to just come in and willy-nilly buy property. And we don't want that, I don't think. I believe it's problematic if they were to do that. And I asked the question, how often do they offer their federal lands for sale to private? Okay, this is a one-way shift, and we need to understand that as a body. If we allow private lands to be sold to the federal government, it does short-stop our taxes. It takes away opportunity. I look at how hard is it right now for our industry that is dependent on private lands to do whatever it is, whether it's livestock, mineral, whatever. When we take that and give that to the federal government, that is a loss to the people in our ag, in a lot of our industries in this state. And I just think it's bad form. We're not saying that they can't sell their property. We're telling them that it's prohibited to sell it to the federal government, which I think it should be. I do not think the state of Wyoming wants to lessen. We already have enough federally owned lands. They don't give us all the PILT money that we're promised. We never get what we're promised. We're always on the short end, and I think it comes back to the very start where we're all supposed to be in this union, these United States on even footing. How many eastern states have federal lands? How many of them are dealing with the problems we have with the federal government dictating to us what we do in our state? I urge a no vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wharf. Representative Geringer, for your second time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. You know, I might, beyond the argument that this is a private property issue and whether or not we as citizens should be asking for permission or even being told who and where we can sell our land. Beyond that argument, I might pose another one that's related to unintended consequences. So there are multiple instances around this country where the federal government has bought land that is an environmental cleanup site, a Superfund site. So it's something that maybe an individual landowner cannot deal with on their own. And so it's an opportunity for them to be able to get out of a bad situation and let somebody else take care of it. Number one. Number two, I'll pose a hypothetical. In the city that we're living, or that we're in right now, the entity owns a big parcel of land out west that is that had Atlas missile silos on it. When they were testing those missiles and doing the readiness activities back in the 60s, they would use a cleaning agent called TCE, and they would spray it on these facilities as they were shutting them back down, and they would just let it wash into the ground. That has now impacted the groundwater west of this community. Currently, the Army Corps of Engineers is involved, but they are slow to react. And so the efforts by the city have been met with resistance, we'll say. I could see, hypothetically, a situation where the city says, fine, we can't develop our own groundwater resource because of the impacts of the federal government. Is there an opportunity to sell it to the federal government? And what we're saying is, no, you cannot do that. It's either going to have to be something that they choose to do on their own, or get a situation worked out with the state, ask the state for permission, ask the state to work with them to exchange other lands. And so our community is not able to do that. As an individual, as a property owner, a private property owner, I could see situations like that as well coming up, and we're telling them, no, you cannot do that. On and for this amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Pendergraft. Second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think maybe we're dealing a little bit with the question of semantics. We look at private property rights. Does a person have the right to sell? The other side of the coin is, does the federal government have the right to purchase? And I would remind you that under the federal Constitution, we the people, the private landowners, limited the federal government on the types and amount of property that the federal government could own. They are far beyond what they ever should have had in the first place. And at some point, we the people need to stand up and say, yes, you a private citizen, you can sell to whomever you want, but the federal government doesn't have the right to buy any more land.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Larson, Lloyd. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of points that I think are worthy just to help us as we make our decision. The comment that the federal government doesn't pay property tax and those come off the tax rolls is accurate as stated, but incorrect in that we have the payment in lieu of taxes. It was a federal program put into place in 1976 where the federal government compensates states for those federal lands that they don't receive taxes for. Wyoming currently is the 9th largest recipient of those payment in lieu of taxes, according to the great Google that I just looked at. I think that putting restrictions on the federal government is fine, but I don't think we should put the restrictions on the people and their ability to sell. And would encourage you to vote in favor of this amendment.
Representative Byron, Chairman Byron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body, we're here, week 2, day 1, and we're debating an important amendment to an important bill. And we're infringing and taking away something that we value. We are asking the state, we are telling the state that, and our people and our constituents up in the gallery, that you cannot, you can sell to anyone but. You can sell to anyone but. So here we begin the buts. So why are we restricting someone's private property decision? That goes right to the core. We're expanding the Green Book to tell our neighbors and our friends and our constituents what they can and cannot do with their land. On and for the amendment.
Any other members? Representative Banks.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Appreciate the good discussion. It's obvious we have some difference of opinion on whether this is a taking or not. I don't see it as such, and I think the representative across the Bighorns from me hit the nail on the head. We're not limiting who you can sell to. We are limiting the federal government under our constitutional responsibility by our act of admission, that we're limiting their right to purchase. That's what we're doing under here. Just because we've been allowing it for so long doesn't mean that all of a sudden that it's right and that it's okay and that we should forget about it. The Constitution, that should be our guiding principle. The Constitution states under our act of admission that this is the ability of the state of Wyoming to have jurisdiction over lands within our borders. We are protecting private property rights here. We're protecting them from our MPs. We're protecting them from federal overreach, because when that happens, you're no longer protected. And I think it's this body's responsibility to continue to do that. And when we get back to our constitutional authority, I believe we can do that more abundantly. And I encourage you to oppose this amendment. And again, thanks for the good discussion, body.
Thank you, Representative. Anyone else for their second time? I have the opportunity for Representative Tarver, Kelly, McCann, Harshman, Locke, or Yin to speak to this amendment a second time. Seeing no one, Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, you might say we're not limiting private property rights. You are potentially taking away the person, the entity that can pay just compensation. And let me walk you through that, because we swore an oath to the Constitution. We swore an oath to the United States Constitution and the State of Wyoming Constitution. So let me walk you through what that means. The United States Constitution says that no private property shall be taken for public use without just compensation, Article 5. This limits just compensation. This means that potentially the greatest buyer who wants to spend their money here can't buy that property from that private property owner. The Wyoming Constitution provides that private property shall not be taken or damaged for public or private use without just compensation. Again, another violation of the Constitution. And additionally, the greatest court of our land has said that property rights are necessary to preserve freedom, for property ownership empowers persons to shape and to plan their destiny in a world where governments are always eager to do so for them. And you have said here this morning, members, some of you have argued that the government knows better on who you should sell your land to. That's a dangerous, slippery slope, isn't it? The government knows better. I argue the government doesn't know better here, and we should let private property owners sell their land to whoever they choose to get the just compensation they deserve, so we can follow the United States Constitution and the Wyoming Constitution as we swore an oath to. I've asked for your favorable consideration. Thank you. And also, Mr. Speaker, I would ask for Rule 12-4 to call the ayes and noes on this amendment.
I need 2 seconds, or just 1 second on a 12-2. Chestick? Chief Clerk?
Alamand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown, Gary? Brown, Landon? Byron? Campbell, Elisa? Campbell, Kevin? Repeat? Repeat? Chestick? Clauston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Filer? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas? McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey?
Excused.
Provenza? Riggins?
Excused.
Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Repeat? Webb? Weber?
Excused.
Worf? Williams? I'm sorry, Worf, repeat? Williams? Winter? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Speaker Nyman? Are there any changes? Angelos? Angelos? Any changes? Closing vote? Vote closed. 25 aye, 34 no, 3 excused.
Ayes, the amendment has failed. Having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time on House Bill 118? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Moving on to our third reading consent list. Some brief explanation on how this works. We're going to ask for a vote of the body on the third reading consent list. You will have the opportunity to be able to vote either aye or no on the entire consent list to basically pass the consent list in its entirety. Any member can remove any one of these bills from the consent list and we can debate it individually. If you don't have any that you want to remove, you can leave them on, but then once the consent list has been voted on to be accepted, the chief clerk will go back and she will read each individual bill. And if you do not want to consent to the passing of that bill, you can change your aye to a no. So each individual bill you will be recorded your vote on. If we all vote in affirmative to be able to pass this group, then you will go back and have the opportunity to change your vote on individual pieces as we go down through the line. So hopefully that's clear. If it's as clear as mud, we can try to explain it further. But this is the third reading consent list. None of these have amendments. So Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move the consent list for third reading consisting of the following bills: House Bill 14, House Bill 17, House Bill 82, and House Bill 157.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, would anyone like any of these bills removed from the consent list? Will the reading clerk please read the bills on the consent list?
House Bill 14, sponsored by Minerals, Solid Waste Municipal Cease and Transfer Funding, an act relating to the prioritization of cease and transfer projects for mutual solid waste facilities. House Bill 17, sponsored by Education, Career Technical Education Equipment Grants Amendments, an act relating to career technical education equipment grants for K through 12 public school districts. House Bill 82, sponsored by Labor, Provider Enrollment Standards, an act relating to the Insurance Code. House Bill 157, sponsored by Representative Baer, Proof of Voter Citizenship, an act relating to elections.
That's all. Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall these bills pass the House? The chief clerk will call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon? Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clouston? Connolly? Repeat. Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Filer? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas? McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey, excused. Provenza? Riggins, excused. Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber, excused. Worf?
Members, let's keep this down so we can hear.
Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Speaker? Are there any changes on the consent list? Closing vote. Vote closed. 59 aye, 3 excused. As for House Bill 14, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 59 aye, 3 excused. As for House Bill 17, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 59 aye, 3 excused. As for House Bill 82, are there any changes? Smith? Aye. To no. Allemand? Aye. To no. Locke? Aye. To no. Ottman? Aye. To no. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 55 aye, 4 no, 3 excused. As for House Bill 156, are there any changes? Oh, excuse me. As for House Bill 157, are there any changes? $157, are there changes? Nicholas? Aye. To no. Chestick? Aye. To no. Sherwood? Aye. To no. Provenza? Aye. To no. Storer? Aye. To no. Larson Lloyd? Aye. To no. Further changes? Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 53 aye, 6 no, 3 excused.
Having received an affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House Bills 14, 17, 82, and 157 have passed the House. Let's see, now we're going to go on to third reading bills that are going to be amended. We have amendments to House Bill 156. Waiting on those amendments to come in. Three on regular. Where's my regular consent? There it is. Okay, on third reading, regular reading, we have House Bill 32. Reading clerk, please read the bill.
House Bill 32, sponsored by Representative Lean. What is a Woman Act? An act relating to common law statutes and rules of construction.
House Bill 32, we have amendments. Representative Chestick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill number 32 and ask for your favorable consideration.
Proceed.
Thank you. This relates to a problem that I identified during committee of the whole debate, and that is that this bill, in some respects, tries to do the work of the courts and tries to tell the courts how to interpret the Constitution, which is not the job of this body. So my amendment simply deletes from the bill, starting at the bottom of page 3, paragraph B, which talks about what level of scrutiny, what level of constitutional scrutiny a court should apply to challenges under this bill. And that is a matter for the courts to determine. It's constitutional scrutiny, which is rational basis, or intermediate scrutiny, or strict scrutiny. Those are categories defined by the courts as to how they will interpret bills as they are challenged under the 14th Amendment or other provisions of the Constitution. That's what courts do. That's not what legislatures do. We can define terms, but whether our definition is constitutional or not is a question for the court, and we can't tell the court how to do its job. So I therefore am recommending that we simply delete that paragraph and renumber the remaining paragraphs. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Representative. Discussion. Representative Pendergraft, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would contend that the only thing this bill does is provide definitions so that the courts can clearly understand what we mean, and I would reject any circular or straw man arguments.
Any other discussion? Question being called. All those in favor of third reading amendment to House Bill number 32? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I got a second bite at the apple. Thank you, Representative Brown. By all means, Representative Chestick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill does more than define terms. Telling the court what level of scrutiny to apply to those definitions is more than defining a term. It's actually changing the way the court is supposed to act, and that's something that we have no ability to do. I once again ask for a favorable consideration.
Thank you, Representative Chestick. Now, we are taking a vote on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 32. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Amendment has failed. Next amendment, House Bill 32. Oh, amendment. Got number 3. Okay, we're going on to amendment number 3 of House Bill number 32 on third reading. Would the amendment bringer please present the amendment? Representative Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 3 to House Bill 32, and I ask for your favorable consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, this reintroduces that language that was taken out of the Labor Committee on XX and XY chromosomes. And the reason why I'm bringing back this amendment is it's based on a couple of things. Firstly, from the moment of conception, every single individual life starts, and it starts with the introduction of the sperm and the egg, and it is from that moment that an XY or XX chromosome is displayed. And the language that we have now in the bill, it defines a man or a woman based on the development of the reproductive organs. But those reproductive organs are predicated upon the presence of these chromosomes. And so because of that fact, I don't believe that the intention of the bill is to define men and women based off of their reproductive organs, because there are other physiological features that are also affected and demonstrated by these chromosomes, be it the way that our voice boxes develop, or the distribution of fat tissues, or the development of the brain. All of those things are influenced by XX and XY chromosomes. And so I also think that we need to have this amendment because of the privacy concerns that were expressed on the floor here a couple of days ago. A XX or XY chromosome can be determined through something simple like a spit test instead of requiring some sort of intrusive examination. This amendment makes this bill more like the bill that we had last year, which I thought was great. And so I'm asking for your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Representative Singh. Any other discussion? Representative Lean for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand against this amendment today, for you see, the body that represents the entire country above us is putting into law a definition much similar to the one that is already in the legislation for the amendment that we already passed to it. We find that we want to make sure that that we are very consistent with the laws that are coming above us and down, and for us to give to the branch that provides justice, that they have the opportunity to know where to start with something that is legally defensible for any litigation that may come up. So on and against the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any further discussion? First time. Representative Jarvis for your first time.
Thank you, Speaker. Given the nature of the information that I proposed, I am for this amendment because I am for, regardless of if this is legally defensible or a strong, it provides a really strong legal case. If that's the case, then my biggest fear is going to happen. And so we've kind of missed this thing between a bill and how the courts will interpret it. And it's called women, the people it impacts to get us to what brings us to the courts and when we have to actually interpret that information. So I actually wholeheartedly appreciate this amendment, and I am all for it.
Thank you, Representative. Any others for their first time? First time? Going once? Second time? Representative Lean, would you like a second bite of the apple? Any others? I have Singh and Jarvis. Representative Jarvis, good. Representative Singh, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In response to what could be coming down the pike with federal rulemaking, I totally recognize that. But the fact of the matter is we don't have that language in front of us right now. And so if this language that we have today ends up conflicting with whatever comes down the pike through executive order, we will have the opportunity to change it when it comes to concurrences. And so with that, I ask for your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Representative. Question? Question being called. All those in favor of third reading amendment number 3 to House Bill 32, please say aye. All those opposed, no. The amendment has failed to be adopted. On now to third reading amendment number 4 to House Bill 32. Representative Yin is running to the microphone. Thank you, Representative. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, thank you. So I move third reading amendment number 4 to House Bill number 32 and ask for your favorable consideration. So members, this inserts natural because in Wyoming statute, in most statutes, there's we talk about legal persons and natural persons. What I don't want this bill to do is confuse the two, right? So if we have a definition of male and it says it's talking about a person, even with the last amendment or any other amendment where we have that definition, we say a person with 2 X chromosomes. So if we're going to give these definitions for the judicial branch, we want to make sure it's clear what kind of entities we're talking about. And I think we are only talking about natural persons. So just a clarifying amendment. Ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Yin. Any discussion? Any discussion? Representative Rodriguez-Williams, please, your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and opposed to the amendment.
Any other members for their first time? Anyone else? I could do that. I would entertain a motion. Question. Question being called on amendment number 4 to third reading number 32, House Bill 32. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Amendment has failed to be adopted. Third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 32, Representative Sherwood. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the body. I can see where this is going, but I think this is a wonderful learning opportunity. So I'm going to move third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 32, and we'll withdraw it at the appropriate time. So for many of you, this is the first time you've seen a delete the enacting clause. And so this is a tool that we use on third reading to kind of just pause, catch our breath, see where we're at, see how we're feeling on something, and have one last conversation. But I'm thinking that because I'm standing in front of your lunch, the conversation may not be very long. I understand that. So over the weekend, I went through and said, okay, we're setting these definitions in place. How many of our existing statutes do these definitions then impact? There are over 200. I made it through maybe 150 of them. And I pulled out 3 examples of unintended consequences where if we adopt this bill with the current definition, we see a little hiccups happening through our statutes. This bill, the definitions, they exclude non-gender confirming citizens from the rights protected to them under our laws. The unintended consequences include policies that protect equal pay, employment opportunities, rehabilitation, and elected positions. So one example from Title 19 regarding equal pay, Chapter 9, Section 403 outlines the rights and duties of those serving in our National Guard, including how they're compensated. Currently, the language in this statute refers to male. If we pass this bill, what happens is female members of the National Guard will no longer be guaranteed the same pay as their enlisted female counterparts. Unintended consequence. I don't think that's what this bill intends to do. Another example under the highest law of the land, Title 7, has ruled that employment discrimination against LGBTQ people is illegal. Yet, this bill would prohibit a non-gender conforming individual from working as a correctional officer, thus violating federal employment discrimination laws. Again, I don't think that's what we intend by this bill. One last example here is the right to serve as an elected position. Title 22, 4-101 in our statutes calls out that each political party has the ability to select one precinct committee man and one precinct committee woman. So by passing this bill, then we are faced with this question. A non-gender confirming individual can then either no longer serve as a committee person, or in order to maintain separate but equal accommodations, we will need to amend this statute in our election laws to allow for one man, one woman, and one non-binary individual to serve as a committee person. Those are my examples for you today. So if our goal is to protect individual freedoms and career pathways, this bill doesn't get us there. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sherwood. Anyone want to speak to the amendment first time? Anyone want to speak? Seeing none, Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and body. I withdraw this amendment.
Thank you, Representative Sherwood. She withdrew it, so we go on to having been read, House Bill 32, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon? Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Aye or no? Repeat? Chestick? Clauston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Feiler? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas? McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey, excused. Provenza? Riggins, excused. Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber, excused. Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Speaker Nyman? Are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote? Vote closed. 50 aye, 9 no, 3 excused.
Having been read, House Bill 32, having been received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, House Bill 32 has passed the House. All right, I believe that's the end of our... Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'm hungry.
So be it.
I move that we recess until 2 p.m.
You've heard the motion of the Majority Floor Leader. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? We are in recess until 2 p.m. Committee announcements. Which one have I got? Chairman Byron, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 6, travel, will meet upon noon recess tomorrow, Tuesday, January 21st, Capital Extension 005, to hear House Bill 5, Fishing Outfitters and Guides Registration of Fishing Boats, House Bill 204, Non-Resident Fishing License Fee Increase, and House Bill 211, if time permits, Hunting Wildlife from Vehicles.
Thank you, Representative Byron. Representative Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 2, House Appropriations, will be meeting in 15 minutes in room E301, and we will be discussing re-referrals, House Bill 18, hopefully House Bill 169, and we will also hopefully continue on to begin our finalization of the funded state capital construction, as well as the supplemental K-12 school facilities appropriations number 2.
Thank you.
We will also be meeting this evening upon adjournment in the same room to continue our discussion on the supplemental budget as a joint appropriations committee.
Thank you, Chairman Bear. Chairman Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 3, Revenue, will be meeting at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning in the Capital Extension Room E5. And we will be hearing 3 bills, HB 40, Sales and Use Tax Revisions, HB 39, Property Tax Refund Program Revisions, HB 38, Ad valorem taxation payment and credit of penalties. Bills, we will continue these bills upon adjournment if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Locke. Chairman Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your House Committee number 5, Agriculture, will be meeting at 7:30 tomorrow morning to discuss House Joint Resolution number 2, House Bill number 92, and House Bill number 93. Thank you. We'll meet in room 3 downstairs.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your number 7, Corporations, will meet today at noon recess at the Capital Extension Room E005.
We'll be hearing Bill HB 69 for an adversary ownership, HB 22 waste and wastewater operator emergency response, HB 227 executive order time limitations, and HB 176 vacancies in public office amendments if time persists, if time allows.
Thank you, Chairman Knapp. One also for all of you, study the amendments coming over the lunch hour. We will be taking up the House rules after we have our break here at lunch. And so I would encourage all of you to go to the website, look over the rule changes so that we are ready to attack that as soon as we get back from lunch. So without any other announcements, enjoy your lunch and your meetings. Thank you all. Yeah, Representative Heiner, Majority Floor Leader, do you want to announce the cow list if you have it? So you're going to stay and wait on it? Okay, so we'll hold off a little bit. We'll announce that one later on. Okay, thank you. Enjoy your lunch, everyone.